What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Red Chill. I'm your host, Root,
And I'm your boy Shabz.
and this is our Evil Dead and Super Mario Brothers, the movie review. We're going to go through our overall thoughts and then discuss every little spoiler that we can think of. So be warned, be ready. Let's start it. Shabs, let's start with Evil Dead, as
Yep,
your background suggests.
there we go. I made the decision for us.
So, what were your overall thoughts on the Evil Dead movie, Evil Dead Rise?
Evil Dead Rise. I don't. I'm not. I was thinking like you were gonna ask me if I recommend it or not, and I kept thinking I'm not really sure. It's like right in the middle for me, where I didn't dislike it, I didn't hate it. It was just kind of like a standard thing, but as an Evil Dead movie, I wouldn't really like. It was fine, in my opinion. It got some things correct, but it wasn't scary. It kind of felt like I would just recommend it like if you just want to go out at night to watch a horror scary movie. Hey, we have nothing to do. It felt PG-13 to me more than anything. It didn't feel like, and that's my short answer to that. I was just really, I just kind of watched it and I kind of laughed at it and I was like, oh, it's a pretty standard horror movie, but it didn't feel horror and it didn't feel that much Evil Dead, where it kind of just rode the line in the middle of like Dead by Dawn and Army of Darkness, where it didn't take a side of whether it wanted to be scary, like the Evil Dead remake by Freddy Alvarez, or it wanted to be fully comedic, like Army of Darkness.
Really, I didn't think this one was that funny.
Like, no, funny in the sense like I was laughing at things that weren't supposed to be funny, but I think in the movie's mind they were trying to be funny, like where the demons are like taunting people and saying like mean things to the main characters. But that felt scary in the originals when they did that, because demons are supposed to like laugh at your pain, and in this it was just kind of happening, where it felt like, oh, we're just gonna put this in just because it was there in the originals, and I was
Oh,
kind
I
of
see.
laughing at that, not
Oh,
with it.
well, yeah, I don't know. So for me, I think this is like the fifth film in the franchise, if we count the remake that they did in
Right.
2013. So we
Yeah.
had the three originals with Sam Raimi, where I think even those all are kind of different genres. Where,
Mm.
like, I think the first one is kind of like a horror comedy, and then the second one is like a full on horror. Actually, maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I think maybe the first one is a full on horror, and then by the second
Right.
one it becomes like horror comedy, and then the third one is like a straight up comedy.
Right.
And then I think the 2013 was like straight up horror again. I remember that one
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
pretty
It went.
intense.
It took a decision to stay on the on one thing.
Yeah, I would say this one is probably, I don't know. I feel like there was only like two, three times that like it really tried to get a laugh out, but it
Hmm.
didn't go all the way into the crazy territory that 2013 went to into. Because I remember that one really being like, really, there was some moments in there that were crazy to watch.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, pretty terrifying. But I think this one,
And
yeah,
yeah.
I get what you mean with the PG-13. I think overall though, I had a pretty good time. I think it's out of all the horror movies I've seen recently, I think this is actually one of the better ones, especially this
Really.
year. I think, yeah, I think it's an overall a good time. I was thinking about it. I think I'm a huge fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I love the
Yeah.
show.
Same.
I love every movie, and I think the premise is just a really dope heavy metal premise for a horror movie. Like it just works so well. Where like the the book and the demons, it's like it's not just vampires or zombies, it's like its own thing
Right.
with the hags, and how they're like unrelenting and like you literally can't stop them. I don't know, I think it's I had a really good time. I agree that like it's not like an amazing film, but I think if you just want to watch like a fun horror movie and have a good time,
Yeah.
and I think it's like not too crazy that like I have to warn people about it. That like, oh, like only if you're like okay with really gruesome gore and shit, like you're okay with it. Unless I was like, nah, I don't know.
But don't
I
you want that in a horror movie?
no,
Where
I
you
don't.
have to warn people about things? No, not like gore, like specifically gore or gruesome things, but I'm just saying like, don't you want it to be scary enough where you have to tell people like, yo, like go watch it. It's really great, but it's really like fucked up. Like in a sense,
Mm,
like it's
no,
scary.
no, not at all. I feel like there's a
No?
space for things like Scream, where like Scream, it's
Right.
just like that started the
But
whole teen
Scream,
slasher
yeah,
thing. I know what you
right.
did last summer. Like I think it's something like that where it's they focused a lot more on the on it wasn't like teens, it was kids, but it gave it this whole I don't know the whole family being the part of the possession this time. I don't know. It gave it a little bit. I think that's where that PG-13 feel comes from. And I think that's totally fine. Like fun horror movies don't need to be crazy, absolutely batshit crazy. I think there can be some that are just like a fun story. I think there's definitely some things they could have done better. There's like a bit in the middle where it's like I feel like the movie slows down a bit and it's overall it feels a little short in terms of
Right.
like what
Yeah.
all happens.
Yeah.
So, but I
Yeah.
think in that way, again, it works. It's like I said, if you just want to have a good time and watch like a fun horror movie that isn't too insane, but is fun to watch, I think this is totally fine. I had a pretty good time with it.
But that's what I mean. That's what I said in the beginning, where I would recommend it if it's like, hey, you have nothing, like you want to just go out for you want to go watch a horror movie, just to go watch a horror movie, like then you can go out, and it's almost like a fun night out, like watching the movie. But in
Yeah.
terms of just like being like, if you compare it to like the Evil Dead franchise, and 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 like I felt like it didn't really pick a side where I appreciate that they tried to change the location a little bit, and the group of characters that they kind of have, like where they started off with teens at a cabin, right? And they subvert your expectations right after that, where it's like, oh, it's a family in a dumpy apartment building. So I like that, but I just feel like they every time they were about to go an Evil Dead route, they sort of just they introduced it and then they stopped it right there, which is what made it like PG-13 for me, where I feel like you have to, in my opinion, like where I think you should pick a side when you're doing an Evil Dead remake. If it was just like some horror movie, right, called Demon in the Apartment Building or something like that, then I wouldn't mind it. Then I would be like, oh, that was a pretty fun horror movie. But when it comes to like being an Evil Dead remake, or so the acting wasn't all that great, like when they're reacting to things that are supposed to be scary within the movie, like when the kid finds the book, there's like roaches that start flying out, and he's just like, oh. And I could like, you can just tell, like, it didn't feel like some kid that's like in a swarm of flying roaches all of a sudden, where there was no tension. It just like things just sort of happened, and they put like scary makeup on it. That's what it felt like to me.
No, yeah, no, I gotta agree that like the acting of the kid specifically wasn't like the greatest. I think the lady that got possessed was really good,
Yeah.
and her sister was good enough. She was no Ash. That's the same thing I thought with the 2013 remake, where like we just gotta accept that like if Bruce Campbell isn't gonna come back, this is gonna be something else.
Right.
Um, but I still think that like, hey, if this is just going to mean we get these Evil Dead movies more often, they're gonna expand the universe, which apparently they actually put something in with the books where they're saying there's now three books. That
Mm.
seems like they're trying to say that there's going to be more spin-offs happening. I vaguely
Right.
remember hearing that that was the
they
idea, that it's not instead of
they
every
they
10
had three
years.
books. Sorry, yeah, go on.
I think it's a new thing that there's three, but
No, no, they had that in Army of Darkness.
was it?
Yeah, that's the
There,
whole
there's
comedic
three
scene where
books
he's
that he
trying to say
takes
the
them,
right.
but like that's about taking the correct one, I thought.
Yeah, so it's like three books, but he was trying to pick one. So I think it was
Yeah.
established that there was three books. Yeah. Right.
Oh, well, okay, yeah, but like I think they never established that they're like three different books, like different
Right. 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 Right.
thingies. Either way, they're trying to expand it.
Either way, yeah.
And I think that's fine. I think Sam Raimi was saying that they don't want to have another movie every 10 years, instead every few years. And as a
Mm.
spin-off, I'm totally down with it. Like I said, I like the energy that and the world that this is building. But yeah, I
But
guess. But again, it's a horror
uh,
movie. Like it doesn't need to be amazing in that sense, you know. Like it needs to just be fun, and I think this is totally fun. But how
I
about
think
we
it.
just go?
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just go through the movie from the beginning to the end
Okay.
and see, like, go through what all happened. Give our
Right.
reactions that way, and yeah,
Mm.
because I actually think the opening was a great mood setter to the like
Yeah.
it set the vibe perfectly.
Right.
Like you said, it was a great callback to the kids in the cabin, and it was pretty freaky when that lady was starting to read the book that the lady is holding and all that stuff. I almost wish there was like a bit more of that sort of scariness in the rest of the
That's what I
movie.
was just gonna say. I was just gonna say, like, I think the whole atmosphere at the lake, like, I appreciate that it's sort of subverted our expectations, where it's like they start at the thing and the thing rises. I was like, oh, okay, we're just doing another teens at a cabin again, but then they go right towards a completely different thing.
Yeah,
But but then what they executed in that apartment building, I felt like the atmosphere of the teens at the lake was much better in the context of the movie.
I feel like the it was just the cabin kids felt more like the 2013 movie, and it's clear that
Right.
they were trying to do something a little different. And that shot of that lady coming out of the water and the title
Yeah,
coming,
that was
so
great.
dope. There's a couple of
So great.
shots in this movie that were really fucking dope,
Mm.
you know. And yeah, but again, I thought a great start to it, and then we got to the point where it's my least favorite part of horror movies. I was telling you after the movie also because it's like stuck with me, where it's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes of people just talking of like
Yeah,
establishing like, oh, we're real people, you know, care about us, so that when we die
yeah.
or something happens to us, that you actually care. But it's
But
always
did you
like
care?
it's always just the dialogue is like what is it even like. Then there's that whole drama with the dad that like never got a payoff really.
Nothing.
um I yeah, it was just felt all of it like why. It was even like,
Like it
if you
was.
give me a payoff for anything but the father, I would have almost been
Yeah.
mad because you're like forcing me to remember what these
Right.
guys are talking about. And yeah,
Right.
I kind of wish it would have like that could have been a bit shorter, and
Right.
we get to the
Or
earthquake.
or they would have maybe put a little more effort into the actual story.
But you know what? That's
I
where I was already at that point where like I understood the assignment. Whereas like what we just saw with the cabin, I'm like, just get
right.
back to that as quick as possible. I really
Yeah.
don't care who's dying or what they
Yeah.
did before they die. Just let's get to the crazy shit real quick, because that's
Right.
what I'm here for. You know, that's what
Yeah.
why I showed up.
I would have appreciated that's exactly my thing too, where I think had they either given more time to the story and a little more attention to detail to how, like, if they're going to if they're going to set up some character conflicts, have a payoff with it, blending in together the horror and the story, or just have that so short, like in a sense of like how with John Wick, where all that filler stuff was short enough and then the action scenes just go on,
Yeah.
where it's like I wanted, they keep like I'm gonna jump a little ahead, where or actually or like, whenever they had something crazy happen, it would just stop right there. I wanted them to keep going further and further and further, and like just carry on the crazy, and
Yeah.
keep me entertained enough where it's not like you like pique my interest and then it's done. Which is why I felt like it was PG-13, where I think like they weren't allowed to go any further.
I did feel like I actually, before going into the movie, after seeing the trailer in the cinemas before other movies, I was like, holy shit, this is about to be fucking insane. Like, because also in my
Right,
head, I had the 2013 one in my head, and I was like, I
right,
remember that. being absolutely batshit crazy. So I was coming into this movie being like, oh God, now there's kids and there's ladies looking fucking
Mm,
crazy in this trailer. Like, yeah, so I definitely think that like it didn't live up to what the trailer promised for sure. I'll
right.
give it that. But yeah. I would just say this part could have just been shorter. Like I said,
Mm,
get to that very. I also and then we get to the part of the movie where it's a lot of convenience. Well, there's a lot of shit that's convenient in this movie, but like,
of course.
um, so an earthquake happens and a hole appears in the
Yeah, I
basement
was like,
while the
and it's
kids are walking with the pizza, and
and why are the books in a bank vault? It makes no sense.
yeah, why is it there's a bank vault out of all
Shouldn't
things?
it be in a library or a museum or something?
No, I mean he's just trying to keep it safe, right? Like, so I guess it's a safety
Right.
box,
I
but
don't
like,
know.
why is there why did they just build on top of a bank? Like, no one
Right.
checked that bank before they built this building on top of it,
They
and
they,
then
they kind of mentioned that there was like a bank robbery or something, but it still makes no sense that there's just like this dumpy apartment building on top of
like
a bank which
because
has
yeah,
fucking sacred demon books in it.
and then that hole is like perfectly where he needs to go, and then DJ
Yeah.
Kid goes in, which also conveniently he's a DJ kid.
He's a DJ, of course. That
Uh,
that I'm okay with, just because like today everyone's a DJ kid, so it doesn't really like, and I kind of like that they have vinyls that he needs to learn how to spin. So I guess it's like that I'm willing to forgive. The main thing I didn't like was that they kept setting up that the sister is she's not a groupie, she's a guitar engineer. I was so hoping, because they said that so many times, I was like, oh, she's obviously gonna use her skills as a guitar engineer to do something with it, right?
she did.
And in my mind I kept, what did she do?
There was something where like she's doing something with wires and cables. What was it? I can't even remember what it was now.
She was trying to
But
siphon a car, I think.
no, wait, dude, there was something because I remember being sitting
Oh no,
there.
that
It's
was
like,
a different one.
oh, there it comes back. The guitar engineer skills, of course. There's something she made. Did she make like a? She didn't make a bomb or something.
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I could have,
Uh,
dude. I
I,
remember totally this moment where I was like, oh, it came back, and there's some. I was like, I don't even know what. But
I kept visualizing in my head that, remember how Ash like turned his like taped the shotgun to his sawed off arm in Army of Darkness. So I was kind of hoping that she would like engineer, because it's like it's turned into like a goofy horror movie, right? So I thought she would engineer like a broken guitar and a shotgun together, and then she would use like like a guitar
why?
shotgun. I don't
Why?
know. I thought it would be so much fun. Like at least she would do something creative with this
What
thing
does the
they've
guitar do
kept
in that?
setting up. I don't know. She just plays the guitar and like fucking shoots the pew pew pew. I was so hoping that that would happen, where she's like, "I'm a
But
guitar engineer. I'm not a groupie."
but
And then nothing. Like there was no. I didn't even see one guitar in the whole movie.
yeah, something she did where I was like, yeah, that must be because she's a guitar engineer that she can do this. I don't know what it has to do with guitar engineering, but it must be
I
it.
know exactly.
But yeah, but I guess yeah, the kid being a DJ, it was a little nice touch to be able to like, why does he have a record player? I guess
Right.
is better than making him a hipster or something lame like that. But
Mm,
so
yeah.
yeah, so DJ Kid goes into the hole and finds the a bunch of records and then a tomb. Isn't there like a tomb with a hole in it and the book is inside the tomb?
Something like that.
I
I'm
mean,
completely blanking out on that. I just remember him finding the book like under a bunch of rope,
I was actually
and then
thinking
there was like
like
roaches.
the records he finds when he later listens to it. I think there's like a bunch of volumes of it, and I'm like, they need to make that movie. They need to make that
Yeah.
priest. That look
I
like
was just gonna, yeah. Yes. That's
I think
exactly what I wanted.
I think that they maybe that's what they're leading up to because there's very clearly like when at the end like she's like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna just jump to the end. I think there's like
Mm.
7 volumes or something, and like there's a lot that happened from him being like, we're gonna try and convert the
Right.
and the what the book said to being like, kill them all. No, no, just run,
Yeah.
just fucking
Yeah.
run. I
Yeah.
can't do anything.
I really wanted to watch that movie where it was like a period piece in like the Evil Dead origins, when the
Yeah,
Book of the Dead was written. And
I'm
like
sure that's what they're setting up. If you're gonna get
uh
more of these spin-offs, I'm down.
yeah, like that's a movie I would love because that would have been taking Evil Dead in a completely different thing, but still having like demons and stuff that's actually related to Evil Dead and not just like, oh, it's the same thing but just in an apartment.
It's the Jumanji of horror movies. That book
Right.
is whoever finds that book, like they find that game.
Right.
That
Yeah.
shit goes down. You can do so much with it. But yeah, okay,
But same thing with
so
yeah. Yeah.
so earthquake happens and kid finds the stuff and obviously takes it, and older sister is like already onto it, like you shouldn't be doing this. I
Right.
think, yeah, I don't know.
The sister with the short haircut.
You want me to point out what you mentioned when you saw her?
I asked the question, do you think she's a lesbian? I just
Is she a
asked that
lesbian?
question.
I'm like, bro, she
Yeah, no.
literally, like, they just mentioned that she has a boyfriend.
And I think that was a case of the not gays, where they're like, hey, there's just this girl, she just has a short haircut, doesn't mean she's a lesbian, and she has a boyfriend. They don't
I'm like,
have even one interaction together. And I
they
think
do
that
to
was
the book.
their
They're
just
through the door. But I mean, I think
well, no.
you're heavily projecting once again. So I don't know if you want
No,
to keep
okay.
going
I'm
down
just
this.
heavily
You're making it so much worse.
I was heavily projecting what woke Hollywood wanted to do. That's why I was asking. I was like saying it like tongue in cheek, where I'm like, oh, you think they're just like and I have no idea what the point of
Maybe
that
they
was,
just
but
really
I
liked her
guess
deadpan delivery.
that's true. She actually was one of the her and the mom were the two good things about that movie. I will say that.
But yeah, so I think something happens with the family, but it doesn't matter really. And then we get to that point where kid checks out the book. Where I did like the little idea of, I think those teeth are new on the book. I don't remember there being teeth on the
No, they
book.
were there. They were there.
Yeah, because
I think so. Oh, the ones that close. Yeah, I think that's new.
I
I remember there's teeth on the cover of the book that Ash gets his hand stuck in.
yeah, definitely the book looked different. I think that's where they're
Right.
setting up again that it's not the same one that Ash had, because it didn't have the face on
Mm,
it. It was like just skin,
just can, yeah.
and then it
Yeah,
had the teeth on
that's
the side.
possible.
And then yeah, I like the little idea that he pricks his finger and the blood goes in and then opens
Mm,
up.
right.
But yeah, also I like that at least the sister is smart enough to be like, yo, just put it fucking back.
Right.
After they
Right.
see what the hell is in that book clearly written in blood, it was like, okay, yeah, at least sister is smart enough. She should have said something about the
Right.
records. But
Mm,
yeah. Like I was saying, that I thought the records in general, I was waiting for them to say Kandar. Not,
mm.
but they
You kept saying it in the theater over
I
and
know.
over again.
I was like, come on, give it. You have to say it. That's always the
I
beginning.
kept I kept waiting for one of the solutions to be that he has to play it backwards. Like the opposite of what the heavy metal myth
I
was
mean,
in the 90s or the
but
80s, where if you play the record backwards, it's a satanic ritual or a satanic prayer. Where in this, if you play the satanic record backwards, it actually gives you a solution on how to defeat the demons.
I kind of like the idea that there's no solution also. It's
Right.
literally just like, just run. There's even
Uh
at the very end,
oh.
I don't know if you saw, but like at the very, very end, when like there's just like little pieces left, that you can still see like little bits and pieces going after the lady
Mm,
that's going to her
right.
car. Because it's literally,
The
you
girl.
can't stop it. Yeah.
Mm,
But yeah.
right.
But
Yeah.
I'm waiting for them to use Plata Verata Nectu. That never came back yet. But yeah.
There were a lot of references to other movies as well, like and like a lot of previous Evil Deads where it almost felt like people like just wanted to insert these references and then just have like a filler story around it, which is why I didn't really find it like a story of its own.
I don't know. Again, I feel like it's just it's a family gets possessed. And then yeah,
Right.
I like that they had.
I did like the yeah. Sorry. No, go on.
I was just gonna say I like that they didn't like shy away from making it the kids also that get possessed and killed. Kind
Right.
of they went there, you know. But
Mm,
yeah, so basically let's keep on with the what a kid listens to the records, and of course the magic words are spoken, and it hits the mom in the elevator where I
mm.
I like
That's the one scene I really liked.
they did the reference to the tree from the first two Evil Deads and the remake,
Mm,
where I
right.
was I don't know. I don't know why I was worried, but I was kind of like, oh my God, they're about to do the rape scene again. It's so funny. It's like
Right.
it's the most
So
controversial scene from the first movie, and it's been done
yeah,
twice and now almost three times again. Like they keep going back to it.
I know, and that's my thing where it's like when you think of those scenes, right, in the original and the remake. I'm not saying they have to do the same thing, but I'm just saying like as a horror movie, like that shit goes so far and so crazy where this felt like so tame in comparison. Like just as a horror movie on its own, if it's not titled Evil Dead, it's just a fun horror movie. But if you're gonna title it Evil Dead, then I would prefer it to at least like be in that same sort of zone of craziness,
But
which is
like we
I
are
felt I
saying,
felt the yeah.
the all three movies are different tones. That's why I feel like they don't all need to be that. Like, why can't there be different levels like we had with the first three movies? Evil Dead can be any genre.
But no, it's not about the genre. I think they didn't really pick a side. Where all those three movies, they picked a side. Where it's like,
I,
okay, we're gonna do this. In
I
this,
feel
it
like
just sort of felt like we're just gonna throw in a bunch of things and keep it PG-13.
yeah, but like I think this is the Evil Dead that you can show like kids that are that are 13 and up, before you show them the crazy shit
Mm,
that's R-rated. Like I wouldn't show a
mm,
teen the 2013 one. And like the first one now is like because it's old and it's a low budget film, maybe for kids
right.
nowadays it won't be as scary. But back then you wouldn't show that to those kids. So
Yeah.
why not make an Evil Dead that you can show them so that they can start watching the series? Like watch the
But
the,
do
the
you
TV
think
series.
you as a teenager would have found this scary? Because we
I
watched
didn't
those things when we were kids.
I would
As
have
an
found
adult,
Evil
I don't find it scary.
yeah, but Evil Dead was scary back then for sure. But I
But that's
love
what I'm
the
saying.
third
Like,
one because it's
but
a comedy. I'm just saying that like it doesn't all
yeah,
need to be like 2013. We
mm,
have that already.
right,
Why make that again?
right. Mm.
But I
Yeah,
what
I
the
see your
big
point.
what I noticed more with this was they didn't do enough for me with the actual place being possessed. It was really just that
Mm,
elevator, and
right.
then they did a little bit with like all of the people being possessed. But
Mm,
like one of my favorite scenes in the second Evil Dead, I think, is when the Ash is literally just losing his mind, and he's like dancing
yeah,
with the entire room, and like
yeah,
the head is laughing at him, and it's
yeah.
literally like a Looney Tunes cartoon or something, you know.
Right.
And they didn't do enough
They,
of that for
yeah.
me. That was as what I
Mm.
kind of missed from this, where they're just
Or or
dealing
or
with the
or
hags.
when he sees like the mini ashes just like running around fucking with him, and
Yeah.
it's almost like miniature devil, like demon versions of yourself, just like that's when he like starts sawing his arm off and he's just laughing, like he's completely lost his damn mind, and that's the sort of stuff that worked for me in those Evil Dead movies, where we've seen a bunch of other horror movies, but those are the kind of scenes and moments that stood out to me even when I was a kid, where
Yeah.
I felt like this, like even when you think about the remake, where I wasn't a big fan of the remake of the 2013 remake, just because I felt like it was more of the same. But even then, like there are things that always stuck out to you that you always remembered, and I think Freddy Alvarez even said that even when he made Don't Quiet, or what was that movie he made before that?
Uh,
Um, where with the blind dude,
I think that was afterwards, but Don't Breathe.
Don't Breathe. But yeah, so even that, like he always talks about like what people love about horror movies is those scenes that you always remember, that get under your skin, and And that's the kind of shit that, like, I watched this whole movie, and like you said, it was just like a fun horror movie, but nothing really stood out to me, and anything that was sort of on the brinks of standing out was a reference to Evil Dead, like the eye popping out of the thing and then going into another person's mouth. Like that shit was amazing, but it's a reference to one of the older Evil Deads where that happens. But in that, it like just goes even crazier, where the chick's like choking on it and like yeah.
Oh, it's cinema decided to have intermission right as that moment happened, and it
I know.
was the fucking
That was
most
the
what the
funny.
fuck, because it came so out of nowhere that she like it was like a
It was
bunch
like
of
we're
scary shit happened, and then the dude starts choking on someone else's eyeball, and then suddenly the lights go on. You're just like,
yeah.
the fuck
and
just
and then and
happened?
then when you restart the second half, like that scene's over,
Oh,
and it's almost like they just kept the scene playing but just didn't show it to us. It just goes in his mouth, and then that's it, scene's over.
yes, but yeah, so the mom gets possessed and comes back, and then we got the scene in the kitchen where
Mm.
actually I think there was, yeah, they did do a lot of things with being like, is she crazy? Is she possessed? Where like they're like, I think she's sick, and
Mm.
then like they put her in the bathtub after the kitchen scene, where like I don't know. I feel like she was just feeling looking pretty fucking possessed, wasn't it? Like so
Yeah.
after the kitchen scene, isn't she like, it's inside me? Don't let it get my kids.
Yeah.
Isn't it there already that she said it? Like here is going to start to get a little bit more difficult to separate what happened, because it's basically now like the movie just actually starts, and we're
Mm.
dealing with mom being possessed for like quite a while.
Right.
Where actually I still think that's like the best stuff in the movie. I think that actress was great. Like every time,
Yeah,
like
I'll agree with that.
the faces she made and the way
Mm.
she was like the contorting her body, all
Yeah,
great. I actually I thought the movie slowed down a bit when they like locked her outside the door and she's just going
which seemed
crazy
like the
outside.
most minor inconvenience for someone who's possessed. There's no furniture against the door, and she's just like banging her head against the door. I would have liked
Yeah,
for her to just smash the door open and just walk right in.
that, but it leads to that crazy scene where she convinces the little girl to open the door, and she just starts
Right.
fucking choking her. And then she
Yeah,
literally has like,
yeah,
I think it was like a puppet in her hand or something, but that kid was
yeah.
being shooken around violently. I was like, holy shit. I thought it was like she's a goner about to
Yeah.
be, the way that she was being flung around. Holy
I
shit.
was waiting for something to happen through the eye hole because they kept looking through it, and I was like, "Uh
Me
oh,
too. Me
stop
too.
looking through it." I was like,
Because
"Something's gonna happen."
because that was like the big thing in the 2013 one. They
Yeah,
did kept on doing things with their face and stuff. So
yeah.
yeah, but overall, like, yeah, this was all fun stuff. I thought when the mom gets possessed, it was
Mm.
just, yeah, it was a bit weird that it took them quite a while to realize that she's trying to murder
Yeah,
everybody. She fucking stabs like her sister with a glass into her hand. Like I
yeah.
think it's that like also the first thing she does. That's also still
And
before the bathtub.
and no one really screams, or like in terms of like I would have imagined like the kids to be going ape shit, like
Yeah,
just losing their minds, like crying, like oh
that
no,
was
what's
weird.
happening, what's happening. But they were like, that's what I mean by bad acting, where I think just the mix of that and some of the other stuff where I just couldn't fully connect to the scares, where I was just sort of watching something rather than being a part of it. Where the kids should have just been like, especially the little girl. She barely had like, "Oh my god, mommy, what's happening?" I was like, "Dude, you should be losing your mind. Like if that was happening in front of me as a little kid, I'd be like," and then she starts like, yeah,
It,
that made me like felt so disconnected from everything.
it felt a little bit like they were filming next door to like a family that's trying to sleep, and they're just like, "Yo,
Yeah,
don't make too
exactly.
much noise,"
Shh.
shh. Like even when like she gets stabbed into the fucking hand, she just kind of like
Like, oh my
just like looking at it. It's like,
yeah.
you should be fucking screaming, lady. How often have you been stabbed? Holy shit!
Nothing.
Like, yeah. I mean, even like, okay, so then lady gets locked outside. She bites that dude's eyeball and throws it into
Mm.
the other guy's mouth. That's after she's been terrorizing the family, and she like scratched. Did they have a tattoo machine? Like what the fuck was that she was using on her daughter's face?
the thing, right?
It was
Yeah.
like a needle. I think it's a tattoo machine. So like she
Oh
gives her
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
random, but okay. And I don't think it was ever set up that they have a tattoo
No.
machine in the house.
It was kind of set up in the sense where, oh, the mom's like one of those punk rock moms where she's coloring her hair, and her kid's a DJ, and this one and that one, where they would have a tattoo
Of
machine, I
course.
guess.
Yeah, the kids
None
they
of
just
that made.
tattoo each other in the afternoon.
Yeah, why not, right?
But yeah, so she tattooed the girl in the face, and then I think yeah, the mom kills all the neighbors. Where
Mm.
oh, we got
All
the
three of them.
oh yeah, we got the whole thing where like they think she died, right? And then we get
Yeah,
introduced to the neighbors, the guy with the cigarette,
you're right.
who always has a cigarette. So here in Indian cinema, we have a giant, like it
Oh
used
my
to
god,
be.
that was
It used to just like a text show up like by itself that
right.
says smoking is injurious to your health or something.
You're right.
Now it has a giant white border and it just pops out of nowhere. It was literally the
Yeah,
scariest thing.
I
It
was
was
just
the scariest thing for us in the movie, but it's also funny to think that like there's a movie where like literally eyeballs are being bitten out of people's
and this is
faces,
this is what they're
but
talking
this is the
about.
one you got to warn us about, not the decapitations and whatever else has happened before. Like, oh my God. But
That
yeah, I
was
think we're
hilarious.
skipping like I said, it's hard to remember what all happened with the mom because it went on for a bit, which is great. I
Yeah,
thought I like that they dragged it out. But yeah, in between she
right.
dies and then those come and then whatever. A lot of cool
the
shit happened.
the the handsome neighbor starts doing a prayer, and I thought, oh, something might happen, and he just sort of does the prayer, and then he just chokes on an eyeball, I think, and that was that. I was like,
Uh,
why? Like,
it's
are
just
these
that you
characters in
thought
there
that he was
just to be in
handsome.
there?
If listeners keep listening to the podcast, eventually they're gonna know exactly your type.
No, man, he was the handsome dude. Like, I can guarantee you in the script he was written as such, where he's supposed to be
Uh,
the handsome, helpful neighbor
I
who
don't know.
I can guarantee you for a story where the dad leaves the mom, he's the young, handsome dude, because they have an old guy with a shotgun who talks like this, and he's always smoking a cigarette. And then you have the two bratty kids, who's one of them is the boyfriend, and then you have the one handsome because he's always wearing like a wife beater and he's sort of muscular.
See what I mean?
So-
You just like that he has long hair like you. Anyways, let's
No,
move on. But like, I
he
think
had
that
very
scene
short hair.
outside could have gone on a bit longer.
Right.
Anyways, I
Yeah.
like the little scene through the eye hole and
Mm,
then the neighbors all getting murked. But
yeah.
yeah, like I said, everything with the mom was great. But then I think around yeah, just after the halfway point, she gets locked outside the house and we deal a little bit with the movie for me slowed down a little bit. I think
Mm,
her sister is learning about the book and the
right.
little kid is getting like teased by the mom.
Mm,
Meanwhile the middle girl, the short haired girl, is her scar is slowly growing.
right.
Now we deal with her position where
Mm.
I don't know again. It wasn't. I feel like it wasn't as fun as the mom what they did with her. It was kind of
It
like
was just more of the same.
yeah, it was like the. I guess there's some cool imagery with the black stuff coming out of her face, and she's like choking on it, and then she like spits out the
But
maggots.
did it feel like fake to you? That stuff felt like, because in the first Evil Dead, it was so obviously. I mean, obviously they couldn't do CGI, but the practical effects were so practical. Where I know a lot of the actresses had were like seriously injured, and I don't want that to happen to the actresses now, but I'm just saying, like, they had used so much practical effects where stuff was coming out of their eyes and they had to pour like real things. In this, the red liquid and that black liquid should have felt like a little more gross, but it just sort of felt like CGI'd on, and
Uh,
that's why it didn't work for me.
I thought the
I like the
maggots were
idea. I like the
gross.
idea of it.
I like the
I don't
idea
even
of
remember
her
the name.
eating the glass to because she wants to get rid of the stuff in her stomach.
Right.
But yeah, overall it was like yeah, she wasn't as fun. And then they
Mm.
get the little kid to like stab her in the brain finally
Yeah.
with that stick that's been set up the whole time.
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Olympus has fallen style. I'm gonna stab you in the brain. That's what Gerard Butler said. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, okay. It's in Olympus Has Fallen.
I imagine that's the last movie you watched before you started these podcasts.
No, I just remember that line for a very long time. I don't even remember the movie. I just remember that line and him stabbing one of the dudes in the brain. That's it.
I still want to see this the that movie, the Pope movie, Pope's Exorcist.
Pope's Exorcist. Yeah, we should have watched that and like compared these two.
Right? I just want to
Definitely.
hear him say the line, "Speak to my
Right.
boss, the Pope."
The Pope. But yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we have the position with her, and then I think that isn't this
The
where
brother
the
gets possessed.
I think doesn't he just get killed
No, he
first?
becomes a part of the thing, right?
Yeah, but I think the sister kills him, right? Like that was
I don't,
the whole thing where he's like, "I'm sorry." How
all
did he
right.
die again?
I don't think he did. I think he just turned into the same kind of demon.
I feel like
Or no, I think he gets stabbed with a scissor. I think with the scissor that was under the tape of the bed. I
that the
honestly don't.
mom
I like
gets stabbed into the nose,
into
into
the
the brain.
nose. Yeah,
There's that whole scene.
right.
Uh,
That was
but
one scene I wish that like that could have maybe gone somewhere.
it's pretty gross. I like that they were establishing that they don't need a brain anymore. I
Mm,
guess like they're definitely like building the universe up in some way. Like they're
mm,
giving them certain rules apparently that like
right.
I'm hoping we're gonna see more of.
Mm,
But yeah, I feel like now the movie is kind of like just different things happening with the hags, where I
yeah.
do agree there could have been more memorable stuff where like I'm definitely
Right.
gonna forget most of this movie pretty soon. But yeah,
The ending was kind of different. I think, and
well,
it was one of the I guess stand not standout, but like it's a standout compared to the movie.
well,
But I
like
just
right
feel like
after this, just before we get to the end, there was that
oh
one
right.
moment that actually stuck out to me as we're talking about it is, so brother dies and then sister, like the mom's sister and the little kid started
Mm,
running out and heading to the elevator, and I think for that whole sequence was kind of cool where like all the dead people are teasing them and they're laughing like crazy,
yeah.
and then they get into the elevator and then turns out it was just the keys, they were holding it, and then the whole elevator is
Mm,
filling up with blood, and then
yeah.
it falls because of the weight or some
Right.
reason. And yeah, I
And they had
thought
a
that,
Shining reference.
yeah, but I thought that whole sequence definitely was a bit more memorable, and I think
Right.
they could have played around more with that. It like
Mm,
the the place being possessed and them
yeah.
being like teased, and like the whole laughing type demon, wasn't
Yeah.
used as
where
much.
where the demons are there to taunt you, right? They're there to get under your skin,
Yeah,
where they're like laughing at your pain. And in this, it just sort of felt like they were just doing it, and maybe it was not what the demons were doing, but so much so I think just the bad acting of how those two characters reacted to the demons. I think that's what
yeah,
maybe made
but
it a little
at no point
less
did
like you
they.
see Ash just going, Bruce Campbell just losing his mind.
Yeah, but I feel like they didn't bring this into the movie at all. The whole losing your mind bit. It
Yeah,
was like no one really did. The what
I
someone
wanted them
lost the
to
top
like
of their
get,
head. We didn't talk
yeah.
about that. Somebody got scalped, by the way, that and then walked down without the top of her head down a
Yeah.
pier.
And the dude's like, "Hey, dude, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh my god, your head is gone."
But that was pretty badass. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I that's the stuff I kind of liked. Where yeah,
then they fall down the elevator and don't get hurt, of course. Even though what was it,
mm,
13th, 14th floor? I
yeah,
don't know how
they
that works.
fall, they pour right out. They're covered in blood,
Yeah.
blood. And the funniest thing to me was that they have clear eyes, like outlines. And it was so obvious where they were like, hey, wear these swimming goggles and we're gonna pour this blood on you. And I was like, dude, like you can at least make it a little more believable. Like put some makeup on there where you can't have proper clear outlines of eyes on the daughter and the sister.
What I thought
where
was hilarious that like it really the way that little girl gets ragdolled in this movie is just fucking hilarious because she's so tiny, and they
I
literally just
don't-
chucked her out of an elevator with the blood. Like she literally
with the
just like
blood, yeah.
flies out. Like what the fuck?
And she just gets up and starts running, you know.
Yeah, yeah. There's the funniest thing where like they have the mom's sister like check on her to be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm so be
Yeah,
ready to hurt. Like her arm is just fucking all over the place or something. I don't know.
yeah,
Her foot is up
that was
in her
funny.
mouth. I don't know.
This
But
whole
yeah.
movie had its foot in its mouth.
But then we get to that end scene in the basement, and
Mm,
you were saying it was a little
where they
different in what way?
Well, like different in the sense, like I don't think we've seen that, right, in any of the
Yeah.
other previous ones, where
Well,
all the things just sort of conjoin together and make one giant Power Ranger, a giant. No, like they make a giant demon thing out of it with like bunch of arms, and it's
no,
coming towards it. It was kind of like a creative new thing that we see in the Evil Dead thing. But then
I
what I
thought so
didn't
too.
like was that, yeah, that she gets it into like a meat chopper kind of a thing, and the only thing that flies out is red liquid. I would have wanted like chunks of meat to fly out, and like the thing to just like overload and like explode, and like all the meat chunks go everywhere, like make it a little grosser. Like I don't like gross stuff that much, but just make it a little grosser than just like red liquid. That was the only thing, but in terms of just like a set piece, I think that whole ending at least worked as a horror movie way more than the other 80% of the movie.
Yeah, I thought that the idea of them being merged together was kind of cool, but it was kind of
Yeah.
it wasn't. I thought the payoff by the end wasn't as cool. It didn't look so dope when they actually
Yeah.
finally revealed it. They kept on hiding it a bit,
Yeah.
and I was hoping that we would get like a big hero shot of the monster, but we never really
Exactly.
got that. Yeah, I like that they're trying to do something new with it, but at the same time, I thought they could have done it a bit better. I did like
Yeah.
that the woman got to go come get some with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
The little like homage to
Yeah.
Ash. Could have
Yeah.
used a
Yeah.
little bit more of that as well. But I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm sad that like we're not gonna that they're just gonna make these movies and just not have anything to do with Ash, like in any way. Not
Right.
even have like an Ash character. Just like take that whole part of Evil Dead out of it. And it's I get it. He said he won't do it anymore because his body is not can't keep up with it anymore, being
Right.
thrown around that much. I think the show took a lot of a lot out of him.
Mm.
But you never know. Maybe eventually, if
Yeah.
these, what I'm hoping, why I also think I'm okay with this movie in terms of it's good enough, and like expands the universe a little bit more. And
Right.
I'm totally hoping that they'll do a little couple of things with it, little like more spin-offs, and it'll give interest in the series. So it can be like The Conjuring or something, and eventually we get like Bruce Campbell coming back when we have a really good script,
Right.
and it's Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell maybe doing the final
And
one.
or just I wanted to turn into like smaller Blumhouse type, like where independent horror directors just make their own type of Evil Dead. Like you said, like everything has a different genre or a different type of tone to it.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't mind like if like Oz Perkins comes in and makes his own Evil Dead, like in a more slow burn atmospheric type horror, or like someone else comes in and makes it super gory. Someone comes in and makes it super comedic, like stuff like that. I wouldn't mind that either.
yeah. I
But I would
think
like
that's what
for
they're
them to
setting
be
up.
good.
Like I
Right.
said, I think that's what the setup is. That like we were saying, it's so clear that it's such an easy idea to just do the story of what happened to that guy on the records. And for
Right.
example, I would love to see in both Evil Dead the show and the original ending of Evil Dead 3, they set up Evil Dead in the future, where it's like
Mm.
apocalyptic. So
Yeah.
I hope we're gonna get that as well. And like, yeah, like I said, I
I
think
want to
this
see a
is
Mad.
yeah.
I want to see a Mad Max and Evil Dead crossover.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this is a great. It's a good enough start. It's not.
Right.
It's a fun time. It's
Right.
nothing that is a cinematic like history, or like it's not a masterpiece. It's a
Right.
fun Sunday afternoon watch, and Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
and you know what? Sometimes that is fine.
Yeah.
Even though I love Evil Dead as much as I love it, I was like I said, I was okay with it. It was good enough for me.
Where
And
would you rate this in terms of the like four films that we've seen? Not
uh,
counting the show, just the four films.
I probably would have to put it at the bottom, but I
Right.
still they're all really good.
But
I
I didn't dislike it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a cool addition. Just don't make us wait too long for another one. If this is what we get every 10 years, I'd be
Right.
more mad. But if this
Yeah,
is what we
exactly.
get every 2 3 years, you know,
Every 2 years. Because it is
two
a 90-minute film.
yeah, it felt kind of short.
It fell
But
shorter than 90 minutes.
yeah, but yeah, like I said, fun time. Nothing
Fun time.
you will remember after a week, but
Yeah.
that just means maybe you can come back to it every Halloween. Add it to the list when
Yeah.
you're rewatching all of Evil Dead. Why
Right.
not add this one?
It's no hereditary.
I guess not. But yeah. So that's
Yeah.
our thoughts on Evil Dead Rise. Speaking of horror movies, we also watched Mario, the Super Mario
Super
Brothers
Mario.
movie. Yeah. So catch us on the
Mario
next part.
Mario Brothers
The
Rise.
talking about that. We're probably gonna cut it into two parts here, but
Yeah.
we'll see it.
Let's do it. Super Mario, here we come.
Woohoo! Peace, everybody.
Oh my god. You scared me with that.